What's up, everybody? Carolina Jackpot here on Friday night. It's June the 22nd, 2018, and I'm going to do my pick and prediction video for the 2018 Clemson Tigers. There you see it, the defensive line, through the strength of the team. It's all coming back for future first-round NFL draft picks, probably across that front defensive line. It's going to make them hard to beat. This year. Let's roll into the schedule, break it down, game by game, give you my analysis, my take on it, and what I think is going to happen in 2018 for the guys in orange and purple and white. All right, Furman Paladins, game one. The first Saturday in September. Those two haven't met in a few years. Furman had a decent season last year. They finished up 8-5, 6-2 in the Southern Conference. They won like their last 6-7 games, I think, after a rough start until they second round of the playoffs. There, they have a solid ground game and do return 5 starters on offense and 9 on defense. Held their opponents to 23 points per game last year. Had first-year coach Clay Hendricks, former Furman player. I like to make former players to coach up there. Bobby Lamb was one of the former coaches that was a player for Furman. It is what it is, though. Clemson is just going to overpower these guys from the get-go. Furman stands no chance in Death Valley of even keeping this thing remotely close. It'll be over by halftime, probably well before halftime. We're going to pick the Tigers here to win by 48. That's just my line that I came up with so far. I think they beat the Citadel last year like 63-3 or something like that. Furman's definitely better than the Citadel, but no match for Clemson. Trevor Lawrence should get a lot of playing time in this game. I do expect Kelly Bryant to be the starting quarterback for the Tigers when the season first starts out. Anyway, unless he does something in summer practice to lose that job to Lawrence, I don't see that happening, though. I think he's going to compete this year. I think he's going to compete really hard to keep his starting position. I mean, he's definitely earned it and took the team to the playoffs last year. So he's not going to just go away. Game 2 on the road. Now things start to get a little tougher here. You got Texas A&M, which of course first-year head coach there, Jimbo Fisher. Fisher's one of these guys that I'm not totally sold on him as being some great football mind. I think he's a good recruiter, and he brought some talent to Tallahassee. The thing about it is, did they really develop it like they could have? I mean, if you want to look back at his win totals over the past few years, ever since Jameis Winston left Florida State, I mean, they've just been in a downward spiral. They have not been the same team that they were when he was there, and basically most of their success, they were the last BCS national champions after the 2013 season, and they made it to the inaugural playoffs at the end of the 2014 season, where they got curb stomped by Oregon. They really haven't done a whole lot outside of that. I mean, they have had a couple 9-10 win seasons, but really didn't accomplish a lot, and those were largely viewed as disappointments by their fan base and by the nation as well. So A&M we see is picked to finish 5th in the SEC West. I don't know. It probably seems right. I mean, the competition out there is tough. I guess you'd have Ole Miss and Arkansas behind them. So that puts them behind Mississippi State, which is, I don't know, it's kind of surprising. It is what it is. But they do have a couple quarterbacks coming back. Nick Starkel is the one who started off the season, I believe, last year and got hurt. Kellen Mond was the one that came in and replaced him. They also have a running back, Travion Williams. Had a decent season last year. A&M has been known to start fast and finish bad. That was under Kevin Sumlin. However, we'll see what Fisher can do. If he can be a better in-game coach and make better decisions than Sumlin did, and see if he can get that program over the hump. They did give up 29 sacks last year. The offensive line gave up 29 sacks in 2017. Thought that was an interesting stat when I was looking at that. That doesn't bode very well against Clemson, because I can tell you they didn't face a defensive line near as good as what they're going to face in week 2 last year. So good luck to them. That could be, we could be looking at another performance like they had against the Auburn Tigers last year. What did they stack that Stidham guy like 11 or 12 times? One of these quarterbacks can't get moving. You could see repeating the same thing. I think this game will be, I think it'll be close going into halftime, maybe tied. Who knows? A&M might have some momentum. They might have a lead on Clemson going to halftime, but I don't see them beating Clemson. I don't see it being that close, especially in the second half. I think Clemson's got superior depth. It's just going to wear them down. I know that Kyle Field is a amazing place to play, and it's just this tough environment and yada, yada, yada. But you got to think about my Gamecocks winning there last year, and they should have won there. And that was by no means a very good game that we played. So, I think that's kind of lost some of its mystique over the past few years. I'm going to call for the Tigers to win by 14 to 17 points here. I think they'll have a big game on the ground with Travis Etienne and Feaster. I think that you may see Lawrence come in here and have a little bit bigger role in this game in the second half. And I expect a 14 to 17 point victory by the Tigers in week 2. They go 2-0. Brings us to week 3, and they're back at home against Georgia Southern. They are a Sun Belt team. They do return 7 starters on defense, so they're pretty solid there. They were 2-10 last year. Got a couple new coordinators, a new coach, which actually took over last year after a terrible start. He did end up 2-4, finished the season up. So there's that, I guess. There's a little bit of a bright silver lining to the cloud there. This used to be a really good program when they were FCS. They've moved up, and they just have not been able to duplicate that success down there. I think they found the going a little bit tougher in Division I than what they faced previously when they were in the Southern Conference. Tigers will win this game at home easily. I'm saying by 40 points. Could easily be more than that, though. They'll probably call the dogs off in the second half. And definitely empty the bench. Everyone will play against Georgia Southern. Tigers will go 3-0 after week number 3. Week 4, the road game there. Georgia Tech in Atlanta. This is the Tigers' every year opponent in the Coastal. They play a schedule just like in the SEC. You play one team from the opposite division every year, and there happens to be Georgia Tech, and then you have a rotational with someone else. This year it happens to be Duke. Georgia Tech, disappointing last year, finished up 5-6. Of course, the run game always solid. Last year, as a team, rushed for about 3,400 yards, and, holding their opponents to like 1,700 yards rushing. So that's always going to be foremost there at Georgia Tech. 937 yards passing for the whole season. They drew a quarterback and one of their backs. They named their A backs, B backs, C backs, fat backs. They got them all. Taquan Marshall is his name. So a little guy plays quarterback, a speedy type guy. Kervonte Benson is the one that plays fullback for him. He did a nice job for him last year, over 1,000 yards rushing. Their defense is solid. Georgia Tech's one of those teams that, they will play really good in some games against some of the better competition they face. They seem to play a little bit better, it seems like to me, against better competition. Miami last year lost by a point. Virginia Tech, they beat Virginia Tech last year, but then they got blown out by Duke. They got blown out in their rivalry game by UGA. So I don't put a lot of faith in Georgia Tech playing Clemson. The last time these two played in Atlanta, it was on a Thursday night a couple years ago. It was an absolute blowout. And I don't really know if this will be a blowout or not, but Georgia Tech's not beating Clemson. That offense is not fooling anybody anymore. And that's the thing. These teams have time to prepare now. You're in a conference. You face the same teams every year. And these guys, that offense is not that hard to figure out once they start watching the film on it. These defenses are getting stronger, they're getting faster, and it's just not working for them anymore. If this guy doesn't have a decent season this year, Paul Johnson, if he finishes up, has another losing record this year, he's definitely sitting square on the hot seat. They had a 3-9 season in 2015, or 5-6 last year. I think they kind of peaked in 2014. They've made that Orange Bowl where they beat up on Mississippi State. It happened to be the last time that they actually beat Clemson. Also, that was like I want to say it was like a 28-6 win or something like that. I think Deshaun Watson got hurt down there. You have Tater fan running around saying, well, Deshaun got hurt, that's why we lost. Well, no, it wasn't. I think you still probably would have lost that game. It just wouldn't have lost as bad. It might have been a 1-touchdown loss instead of like a 3-touchdown loss. But I don't think that one dude was worth that much. Georgia Tech just wasn't getting beat that day. But they will get beat in this one. Clemson, I say, 21-point win in that one on the road. Yet another one could be worse. But Tigers get the beat down to the Ramblin' Wreck. Revenge matchup in Week 5. Syracuse at home. Of course, we all know what happened last year. Second week in October, Tigers went to Syracuse on a Friday night, got upset 27-24. Kelly Bryant hurt in that game, or was actually hurt before that game. Pulled out of that game. I think Zarek Cooper finished it up and was a losing effort. Big-time shocker in that one. Syracuse returned 7 offensive starters this year and 6 on defense. They lost their last 5 games last year, and they played best with their quarterback was Eric Dungy. Got injured right before the start of the second half of the season. Lost their last 5 games, and in blowout fashion too in a few of those. So they're definitely at their best when Dungy is in there. This kid's got 6,000 yards passing in his career and over 1,000 yards rushing. He is definitely the cornerstone of Syracuse's offense. Needs to find a couple of receivers this year. He lost Steve Ishmael, and defense lacking a few in the linebacking core. They're picked to finish, I think, 7th. They're picked to finish last in the ACC's Atlantic Division. And you'll hear me talk about this some more. That division is like you have Clemson, and then it's everybody else. From NC State to Florida State, on down. I mean, they have Louisville picked to finish like 5th, but looking at what Louisville returns, save their quarterback position, they could finish in 2nd or 3rd place. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of teams right there just fighting over, who's going to be in 2nd place. I don't think Florida State is that much better of a team than Boston College. I mean, I think that was proven last year. I don't think Florida State is that much better than Wake Forest. Sure, they have more talent, but is that going to, parlay itself into victories on the football field? I don't know. These guys are playing in Death Valley. Syracuse, let me state, stands no chance in this game. It's not going to be close at all. They will definitely pay the price for what happened last year. I look for Bryant to have a big day. I look for Lawrence to have a big day. I look for whoever else that decides that they want to come in off the bench to have a big day. Tigers, I'm picking on this one to win this game by 34. And we may see another shutout like we did a couple years ago. It's 54-0, I think. Clemson shut Syracuse out at home. Could be looking for more of the same thing this year. Not going to be pretty. Not going to be pretty for the Orange, those guys in orange anyway. Wake Forest, next game on the road. This here could possibly be the first biggest test of the year. And I say that this, I think, a bigger test than A&M on the road, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, we saw what Wake Forest did to A&M in the bowl game last year, so why wouldn't it be a bigger test? Kendall Hinton is their quarterback. Now, he's going to miss the first 3 games of the year. He and another player whose name escapes me got suspended for just some violation of some miscellaneous team rules. They have a guy named Matt Coburn, then the running back, 900-yard guy last year. All 5 of their offensive line starters come back. That's huge. That's huge on a football team. 6 returning starters on defense, which allowed 457 yards last year per game, and that's really high. That's something they need to get that one under control. But Dave Clawson has done an excellent job at Wake Forest. With 8-5 last year, winning the bowl game against Texas A&M. That's a big name. I mean, to beat in a bowl game. I mean, I don't care that they weren't having the greatest season of all. Yes, they let their coach go, but it's still Texas A&M, and you're still Wake Forest, and they knocked them off. They did. Gave Clemson a hard time last year in Death Valley. I think Clemson won that game 28-14, but they didn't look good at all against Wake in that game. Wake made them earn that one. I think Clemson win this game. I'm saying by 14 points. But Grove Stadium, BB&T Field, whatever it's called nowadays, has been a tough place to play in the past for Clemson. Haven't always played their A game there, so look for this one to be closer than the rest of the games so far into the season. And this, if there's a chance for an upset, this could be one of your chances for an upset right here. But I'm still picking the Tigers to beat Wake Forest. Home game against NC State. This one comes on October 20th. Going to have a bye week, and then NC State will be in Death Valley. Wake is the team picked to finish in 6th place this year in the Atlantic, and that just baffles me. They're way better than 6th place. I think this could be a 3rd place team in the ACC Atlantic. 9-4 last year, NC State was, or 6-2 in the ACC. Ryan Finley, their quarterback, returns. He came back. He has the 3rd most yards of anybody that's returning in Power 5. I did not know that. He's got some targets, Kelvin Harmon and Jacoby Myers to throw the ball to. He lost Jalen Samuels, who's kind of a hybrid type player, did everything for them, and Naheem Hines. We remember how great NC State's defense was last year, especially that defensive line. Only 3 guys return on that defense. Only 3 guys coming back. So they're going to rely on Finley and his receiving core a lot more than they did last year. NC State, scrappy bunch. They'll get that one pieced together. I think they may have a rough go of it in the beginning. They have a home game. I think it's week 3 against West Virginia. That game will tell a lot about what kind of team this is. If they get blown out by West Virginia, we could settle in. It could be kind of a rebuilding year for them. It could be like a 6-6 type club by the end of the season. They hang in there. They play good. They play West Virginia close, or perhaps score an upset over the Mountaineers. You could be looking at another repeat of last year's type record for the Wolfpack. That's another team that is just ready to cross that hump from being. I would say they're slightly above average right now, and better than mediocre. So they're a 7-8 win team right now, and they're improving more and more. So this is another one that there's potential there for an upset. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Tigers will win this game. I'm going ahead and say by 14 points. This one you could see it creep on up more towards a 21-point differential. I just don't think they just don't have the depth. That's a lot, and you're gonna hear me say that a lot more when I talk about Clemson, the teams that they're playing. The other teams just don't have the depth. That reason Clemson just has exceptional depth. They have exceptional depth. I mean, when your second string is better than most of the teams you're playing's first string, I mean, your depth is exceptional. And they've definitely got that right now. They've really built that bench strength into something to behold. FSU on the road. This will be the next game. Everybody's gunning for it. And I put this logo up here, okay, for Florida State. I didn't use the new Seminole logo. This is the Seminole logo that I'm used to. So anytime I reference them, this will be the logo I use. I don't like the new one. Doesn't look right to me. They have a very tough schedule. Florida State does. You have Virginia Tech and Miami out of the Coastal. They're returning 2 quarterbacks now who have experience. We'll see. Time's going to tell what kind of job DeAndre Francois is going to be able to do. How long, the knee injury he suffered was out for, when fourth quarter of the Alabama game up until the entire rest of the season, he was out. So, I mean, that's a long time to lay up. You'd think he would be kind of rusty. I guess time will tell what kind of job he's going to do. James Blackman was kind of thrust into that role, and I don't think he was really prepared to be an everyday starter, but that's what he ended up being. And he did a serviceable job for Florida State last year. Not a great job, a serviceable job. He got better as the season went on. He gained a little bit more experience. But the guy just doesn't look like the typical quarterback that you're looking for there, body-wise. But he got the job done for him. They ended up with a 7-6 record last year. They won their bowl game, Independence Bowl. Talking Florida State and the Independence Bowl sounds kind of strange, but a couple weeks before the season was over, it was doubtful they were even getting to a bowl at all. So their offensive line, once again, looks to be a problem for them. They need to get that shored up. That's the reason why Francois was out for the rest of the year last year. Just weren't able to protect him against Alabama. Cam Akers, 1,000-yard guy, returns at running back, as does Jaquez Patrick. Got to replace all 3 of their linebackers. But they do have a solid defensive line and decent secondary. I look for them to be a really improved team this year, looking for like a 9-win type team for FSU. Braves almost walked off. But yeah, good for second or third place there in the Atlantic Division. I think they'll duke it out with NC State probably for the second place was in that side of the division. Once again, depth is something else that's going to play a factor here. It's going to be a good environment. FSU on the road, I expect them to come in. They may be a two-loss team by the time they play Clemson. I'm not sure. Looking at their schedule, do they play Miami before or after the Tigers? Yeah, they play Clemson they play Miami a few weeks before. So they could come in as like a two-loss team. I'm not sold on them beating Virginia Tech at home in game one. And I'm definitely not sold on them winning at Miami. So we'll see what kind of team Mr. Taggart puts on the field. I think they're going to be improved. That's just my gut feeling. But I don't think they're going to be improved enough to beat Clemson. I'm going to give this one to the Tigers. I'm going to say they're going to win this one by 10 points. That's my take on that one right now. And these opinions could change throughout the season, and they will change. Things happen, things transpire and change. But as for right now, in June, looking 3-4 months down the road, this is what I could see happening. Louisville, next game will be on the road. Also, these two are playing a strange November game. All the games that Clemson and Louisville have played since Louisville entered the league in 2014 have been in September. This one's first week of November. They have a new quarterback, Lamar Jackson, household name. It seems like he's been there forever. Is gone. Jawan Pass will be passed the torch and will be the signal caller for the Cardinals. They returned 3 offensive linemen, and they got 3 decent receivers coming back. Jalen Smith, I believe everybody knows who he is, returns as wide receiver for the Cardinals. They don't have any real running back threats right now at this time, and only returned 4 starters on defense. They went out and got Brian Van Gorder. He's a real journeyman. It's going to be their defensive coordinator this year. That guy's been, it seems like every school in Power 5 in probably the last 20 years, and been in the pros a little bit too, I believe. Last year they gave up a lot of points. They lost to Mississippi State in their bowl game, and that was the Tax Slayer Bowl, and that was also the Nick Fitzgerald-less Mississippi State team that they lost to. So that was a disappointing loss for the Cardinals to end up their season last year. I think Louisville will probably be a little bit better than some people give them credit for. I think they will be gelled by the time they play Clemson. If they can keep everybody healthy, find some kind of running game, and this pass guy gets his stuff going, and he gets in a good rhythm. They could upset some people. I mean, I could see, Louisville taking down a Florida State. I could see them being better than NC State and Wake Forest. If everything clicks for them, Louisville can finish up at second place in the ACC Atlantic. It's very, very possible. They're always going to have athletes at Louisville. It's just a question of if they're going to gel and be able to perform well as a team together. Look for this game to be, I say, another 14-point victory for the Tigers. This one, too, I think will be close at halftime. But I think they'll pull away in the second half. And let me go back and correct myself on this one. This game is actually in Clemson this year. It's in Clemson. I believe I was saying it was at Louisville. It's not. It's a home game for the Tigers. So that might bump it up a little bit. I'm going to say this may be a three-score victory for Clemson. I'd give them by 21 here in this one. I don't think it's going to be close in the second half, but this is another team that I do think will play Clemson and we'll get to it a little bit later when I get to talking about my Gamecocks. I believe this is another team that will play Clemson much better than what they did last year. Last year's Louisville-Clemson matchup was not I don't think they played very well at all, and I'm sure they're looking to get some retribution there and make themselves look a little bit better than what they did last September. The next game is on the road, and it's at Boston College. Everybody's all about Boston College this year. A.J. Dillon, 1,600 yards last year as a freshman. That's quite an accomplishment. Had more offensive yards last year than they have since 2007, back in the Matty Ice days. Quarterback returns. All 5 of their offensive linemen return, and Tommy Sweeney, who's their tight end, one of the best in the ACC. They got a tough schedule as well. They play Miami, and they play Virginia Tech in the Coastal Division, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that that's who they have. Yes, back-to-back. Home against Miami, and then they're at Virginia Tech. So that is going to be tough. That's going to be tough for Boston College. That could definitely be 2 losses in a row for them right there. If they could win just one of those, it would be impressive. It's a tough team. They lost their bowl game last year, with the Pinstripe Bowl, I believe it was, to the Iowa Hawkeyes. They dropped that one, but they're definitely turned the corner there in Boston. Offensively, this team has always struggled offensively, it seems like. I mean, watching their football games has been just like watching paint dry. But last year, I mean, it was exciting. They were putting points up. They were scoring. They were running the ball all over the place. And this could be a tough test for the Tigers. This, other than the Wake Forest game, I think this will be their the Wake Forest, and of course FSU is going to go without saying. This is going to be another tough road test for them. Once again, we're going to talk about depth, though. You're going to pick Clemson's depth over Boston College's depth? I definitely would. Last year, case in point, heading into the fourth quarter of that game, I think it was 14-7 Clemson heading into the fourth quarter, and BC definitely had a chance to make something happen, make a move, tie the game, take the lead, and they just couldn't do it. Could not do it, and Clemson just absolutely manhandled them in the fourth quarter. They ended up winning 34-7. Look for some of the same type thing here this year. I'm going to give this one to the Tigers by 17 in Chestnut Hill. It's going to be a tough environment. Once again, I think this will be a close game at halftime, but by the fourth quarter, Clemson will have worn this team down. Give another one to the Tigers. So they're going to improve here to, what is that? They'll be 10-0. And then they head home for the last conference game of the season. It's Duke Blue Devils. These guys have not hooked it up since 2012 on the football field. 2017, Duke did not look particularly good against the big boys that they played. The Virginia Tech, Miami, Florida State, another one that took them out. David Cutcliffe, got to give him credit there. He's turned Duke for. I mean, Duke was a 2-3 win team every year before Cutcliffe got there. He's got a great offensive mind, and he's able to score points and win games in Durham that they weren't winning 8-10 years ago. They're beating NC State, or not NC State, UNC on a fairly consistent basis. Things that weren't happening there. They're beating teams like Wake Forest. Your Wakes, your Boston Colleges. They're competitive with these type guys, and they're winning these games. But once again, the big boys, the big competition, they're still behind the curve there. Daniel Jones returns for them at quarterback. He's throwing the ball to T.J. Rami. They got a guy named Britton Brown, who rushed for about 700 yards or so last year. So they can put up some points. They got 3 out of their 4 defensive linemen returning. They have a couple of capable linebackers there, Joe Giles Harris and Mark Gilbert. The Gilbert guy's all ACC type player. This is another one. Once again, we're talking about depth. Clemson will win this one by, I say, 21 at home. So making a statement there. Should be their senior day game. It should be decked out in all purple for this one against the Blue Devils. It's kind of an odd feeling. Usually the week before the South Carolina game, you'll see Clemson playing a FCS school or one of the non-Power 5 schools that played Georgia State a few years ago. So Duke in the next to last game of the regular season is kind of a little bit tougher of a test than what they've been accustomed to play at that point in the schedule. But 21 points or so. Tigers will take this one. By this time they're rolling. Should be ranked either number 1 or 2 in the nation. We'll be 11-0 right now. Yep. That's what I got my prediction set at. And roll into week 12 at home. South Carolina comes calling once again. It's been Gamecocks the last 2 years, really disappointing performances against Clemson. I think 2 years ago in Death Valley, I think you could have kind of saw that one coming. South Carolina pulled in their offense had not produced very well in Will Muschamp's first year, albeit much better after Jake Bentley took over as a starting quarterback about midway through the 2016 season, but still nowhere near on Clemson's level. And yet it was 56-7. I was surprised to see a blowout of those type proportions, but I think the Tigers were favored by like 3 scores in that game, so it wasn't totally shocking, but was a little bit unexpected that they played that badly. Last year, though, was really, somebody just really let the air out of the sails in that game. And, Carolina, they had some momentum, should have played a lot better in that game than what they did. It was just kind of totally embarrassing to lose at home 34-10 and to not even be close doing it. It was a 34-10 score. But, the thing could have been 50-0 if they wanted it to be. Really outplayed, outclassed, and just overmatched. If you saw the third quarter touchdown pass from Bryant to Hunter Renfrow, where, Renfrow, just everyone on the South Carolina in that defensive backfield had a shot at him. And, he's outran everybody. Missing tackles. It was terrible. This year, I think Coach Muschamp knows that he's got to do something here. He's got to do something to compete with Clemson, and I believe they will. Is it going to be enough? I don't think so. I love my team, and I will support them to the end. I'm not going to trash them. I'm not going to knock them or badmouth them, but I just cannot sit here and tell you, and honestly, that we're going to win this game. I just don't see it happening. Clemson's just too good. They're too talented right now. They've got an NFL defensive line. They've got NFL players at plenty of other positions on the field, and we just don't have that right now. We have maybe 2 or 3 NFL players on our roster, if that. So it is what it is. I do think they will compete. I think they'll go up there. This one's going to be a much different story at halftime than what they've been in the past. You could be looking at a very close game going into the locker room. Clemson's going to come out in the second half, kind of wear them down a little bit. I'm predicting this one to be a 17-21 point win by Clemson. Maybe somewhere in like the 42-21 type score. a 41-20 type score. I think Carolina will finally put up some points against the Clemson first string defense. But it's just not going to be near enough, and progress will be made, but it'll be it's going to be another wait till next year. I'm afraid after this one. Carolina has not led Clemson in a game since Pharaoh Cooper scored a touchdown on the opening drive of the 2014 game in Clemson. So that's been a long time. I mean, it's been pretty bad. Little stretch there. They definitely have gotten us back for the 5 in a row several times over, in my opinion. So that's my prediction, guys. Regular season, 12-0. I mean, I don't find the losses on there. I just don't find them. Unless we find, unless Florida State is really a lot better than what I think they're going to be. Unless NC State or Boston College or Wake Forest kind of possibly spring a it's not a mild upset, a major upset. One of those games. The other games, I don't see the losses. I don't see Texas A&M being able to beat Clemson maybe in a couple of years after Fisher's recruited some players in there. It could possibly happen then, but it's not going to happen this year. Of course, games 1 and 3 are against high school teams. Those are not going to be remotely close at all. They're going to be 12-0, and will end up probably being the number 1 or number 2 seed in the playoffs. It depends on what you get from Alabama and Ohio State. Georgia is expected to be a factor. I don't really know how high I am on Georgia right now at this point. That's another wait and see for me. I think they lost a lot of talent off that team from last year. So, they think that they're going to be able to just replicate it, and everything's just going to go off without a hitch, and they're going to be back in the playoffs again. Going to win the SEC East hands down, no competition at all. And I don't see that. I think that's kind of delusional. But Clemson will be back in the playoffs. I definitely see Clemson and Alabama there. I see either Ohio State or Wisconsin in there. And the 4th team it's kind of up for grabs. We don't really know right now. You could see a Pac-12 team sneak in there, which would probably be Washington. They have a schedule that sets up favorably for them. They've got a returning quarterback that's really good. So look for them to make some noise this year too. Their key matchup is that first game against Auburn. If they can win that game, I don't see anybody in the Pac-12 really challenging them a lot. But Clemson, 12-0, I would place some coin on that happening. I'm telling you, I just don't see the losses there right now. So you can comment down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. I know it's kind of a long video, but a lot of stuff to go over. Appreciate it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys later. Peace out. Go Gamecocks.